Hi guys, my name is Vivek and in this video tutorial we will understand what are fact tables. Fact tables and dimension tables are the two basic building blocks of data warehousing. In this video tutorial we will understand what are fact tables, what are the types of fact tables, what is the relevance of fact tables. If you are creating a data warehouse, what kind of fact tables do you need? If you already have a warehouse, what kind of fact tables do you have? And that kind of stuff. So let's understand what is a fact table first. So a fact table is a table that you find at the center of a star or snowflake schema and it's surrounding by dimension tables. So what happens is fact tables, it's constituted of two main attributes. The foreign keys of the dimension tables, the primary key of the dimension tables, and the measures on which you do logical computation, and they give you meaningful results. And we will understand all that as we proceed. So the important thing to understand is that it consists of facts about a particular business process. And we will also understand what this statement means in detail. I've given real world examples so that it will be clear to you guys. There are two main elements as I suggest, and then there is something called a degenerate dimension, and I'll explain what that is. So the first thing I mentioned is the primary key of the dimension tables. For example, we are talking about an e-commerce website, the product ID of the product that is being sold, the date on which the transaction happened, the employee who was involved in servicing that transaction, and that kind of stuff. And then we have the measures that what was the amount that was paid by the customer, what is the number of quantity of the products that he bought, the commission of the selling agent, and the profit that is being generated by the company for that particular transaction. So these are the kind of information that you get from a fact table. This is how a fact table looks like. So the first is transaction ID, which is a surrogate key. It is optional. Not every fact table will have a surrogate key, but yeah, some of them may have it. Then we have the foreign keys, the primary key of the dimension tables, the product table, which signifies what is the product that is being sold, the customer who bought that product, his ID, the employee table. Now this order ID is a degenerate dimension. What is a degenerate dimension? A dimension that doesn't have a table with descriptive value. For example, I was buying something on an e-commerce website, and as a part of that order, I bought 5 items. So all the 5 items will have a single order ID. Alright. Then I have the amount, which is a measure. What's the amount that is being paid by me? The quantity bought by the customer, the tax, and the profit, that kind of stuff. So let's look at how the data looks like. But before that, let's understand what's the relevance of a fact table. The main important thing is it allows you to do meaningful analysis on your data to improve your business process. For example, I can see that I have 100 products that I'm offering as a part of this e-commerce website. These 10 products are not being sold at all over the last 4 months. So I may want to offer a discount on those products. Then that's the thing that I just explained. Then the next thing is which products are selling fast on my website. I may want to procure them in advance. For example, the school season has started. A lot of people are buying bags. I see that 80% of the bags that I had procured has already been sold. So I may want to procure more bags in my warehouse so that there is no delay in my transportation. Like which employees are handling most of my cases. So if you go back, you will see that I have an employee ID as well, and I have in the transaction table I have all the details, so I can actually see that which employees have made more sales for me, or which employees are handling most of the cases, I should go ahead and promote them or at least give them a bonus. Now, what are the types of the fact tables? We have three main kind of fact tables. We will understand each one of them in detail. After you understand this video completely, you will be able to differentiate and understand what is the relevance of each type of fact table, what kind of fact table constitutes your data warehouse, and in case if you are creating a warehouse, what kind of fact tables do you need. So let's go ahead and understand the basic transaction fact table. Here the grain is set to a single transaction. We have the surrogate key, as I told you, the transaction ID, the product key primary, the product table primary key, the product ID, the customer table primary key, customer ID, and so on. Let's see how the data looks like for a transaction fact table. So here for the transaction ID 1, the product which has the ID 1 is being sold to customer with the ID 1, and the employee who is servicing the transaction is employee ID 8. The first and the second transaction are part of the same order, so we have given them the order ID 1. This is a degenerate dimension. It doesn't have any other attributes. It's self-explanatory, but it actually helps us to group by and do some operations. Like if I want to see the individual orders, the 10 individual orders that made the most money to me, so I can group by on the basis of order ID and I can calculate the amount, that kind of stuff. Then we have the standard measures: amount, quantity, and profit. So your transaction table will have huge amount of data, huge amount of rows, because for every single transaction that is happening as a part of your e-commerce company, a row is loaded. For example, let's understand it this way. You're having 1 million products that are being sold as a part of your e-commerce company. You have 1 million customers that are buying those products. So you can understand the amount of transactions generated on a daily basis. They are huge. So this transaction table usually goes in terabytes. Now we have something called periodic snapshot. Now if you already work in a data warehouse, even if you are fairly new, there is a term that you will always hear. People will say that we need to support the month-end batch, the quarter-end batch, or the year-end batch. They are very crucial. And why is that? I'll explain that here. For the periodic snapshot table, the grain is fixed span of data. Now what does that mean? We will understand that with the help of a telephone service provider company example. So this is the transaction table of the telephone service provider company. It captures the detail of all the calls that are being done by the customer to the number. Each and every call is a single transaction. So here the grain of the transaction table is a single transaction, be it a message, be it a data usage, be it a call, that kind of stuff. So we have the details of all the customers here who own the different phone numbers, and we have the grain is a single call or a single message or a single data usage. So if you see here, the customer ID 2, on date 5th October, he made a call to this number and the amount was 2. Then he made another call to a different number, the amount was 6, and so on. Now let's understand why the month-end batch is so crucial. The month-end batch is so crucial because we want to send out the bills to the customers that this is what you have to pay this month. So let's say I have a million customers that own 1.3 million mobile numbers. Obviously a customer can have more than one number, so the phone numbers may exceed. So I want to generate the bills of all these people and I want to email them. This is why the periodic snapshot table is so crucial, or the month-end batch is so crucial, because if you screw that up, there is a fair chance that people will either be overcharged or they will be charged less. And believe me guys, this is what happens when sometimes you will see that your bill, it got shot up by 10 times or 20 times. Somebody on the data warehouse month end batch has made a mistake. So this is how our periodic snapshot table looks like. It has the month ID, the customer ID, the phone number and the amount, because a person can have multiple phone numbers. So for every row that we have in this periodic snapshot table, we will send an email with the bill that, okay, let's say the customer ID 2, which is this one, is me, Vivek, and I'm owning this phone number. So I'll get an email, sir, for the month of April, for this phone number, this is the amount that you are supposed to pay. And these reports are generated using something called bursting reports. So once we have the data in the periodic snapshot table, we have verified that everything has run fine. What will happen is a report will run, and for each individual ID, it will generate an email to the customers that, okay, sir, this is the monthly bill that you need to pay. Please go ahead and pay it. And if you don't pay by this much date, you will have extra fees. That's why guys, the periodic snapshot table is very crucial. At the same time, the transactional table is also very crucial, because if the transactional fact data is incorrect, your periodic snapshot table will be incorrect. For example, at some point of time, my database was down and the transactional data was not recorded correctly. So I made 10 calls during that duration, and that should have amounted 500 rupees. But since it was not captured correctly, when I get the month end bill, it will be reduced, which is not good, right? It's good for the customer, but not good for the company. So the periodic snapshot table, it captures data for a defined period, and that's why we said that the grain is a fixed span of data. It can be a week, it can be a day, it can be a month, it can be a quarter, or it can be a year. At the year end or at the quarter end, all these companies have to, like all these companies that have went public during the quarter end, they have to produce a sheet that they have to produce to the entire world, because they are an open company, so, or a listed company. That particular detail will consider what's their profit this month, how that profit has changed over the last year in the same quarter, and that kind of stuff. So periodic snapshot table is also very crucial. Now we have something called accumulated snapshot, which is fairly similar to periodic snapshot. What does it mean? A row in an accumulating snapshot fact table summarizes the measurement events occurring at predictable steps between the beginning and the end of the process. The standard definition sounds a little complex and confusing, but the accumulated snapshot table, it has clear starting and ending points. Now what does that mean? For example, let's take the example of a health insurance company. I, Vivek Goel, have taken a health insurance, and I was admitted to the hospital 10 days back. Now I have submitted a claim for that. Okay, so this is how the accumulated periodic snapshot table will look like. It will have a claim date, it will have a paid date, it will have the claim, what kind of claim I've submitted, the location at which the claim I have submitted, the amount that I have claimed, the amount that was paid, and what's the amount balance. So when I submitted the claim, obviously the company will analyze it and it won't transfer the fund immediately. So the paid date, the amount paid, and the amount balance is unknown at that point of time. So the data that I'll have is, I'll have the claim date that, okay, it was I asked the claim on 10th of October. The claim was of medical type. The location was Gurgaon. The amount that I have claimed is 10,000. My balance currently is 50,000. So I can go up to 50,000. Now the company, they will do their analysis and they will see that whether it's legitimate to transfer the entire amount, or if it's a fraud claim, or if they have inflated the amount. Ideally the amount claimed should have been 8,000, but he has inflated to that extent. After their analysis is done, they will pay me the claim. So the pay date has changed. Now it's they actually processed it on the same date. The amount claimed was 10,000, but the amount paid was 5,000, and my balance is 45,000 now. So if you see here, I had a clear starting and ending point. My starting point is when the claim came into the system. My ending point is when my claim is paid. The amount paid initially was null, it has changed. The balance initially was 50,000, it has changed to 45,000. So my accumulated snapshot, as I said here, is a row in accumulated snapshot, the first row that I just showed. It summarizes the events that have predictable steps and a clear beginning and ending. So I had a clear beginning when the claim was submitted. I had a clear ending for the process when the claim was approved and paid, and I knew the steps that it will go through. So that's an accumulated snapshot. Now guys, one insight, there are databases where you don't want to update too much data. In that case, what they do is they just insert a new row, and the newest row, it's considered the final snapshot. Instead of updating, you are inserting a new row, and maybe gradually over a period of time you will delete the previous one. So anyways, the final output of the accumulated periodic snapshot, it will look like this. Now let's see two different kind of fact tables. These were the three main fact tables that we discussed as of now. There are other few types of fact tables that are actually slightly different, or they are actually made from these standard type of fact tables. Let's discuss about factless fact table. So as the name suggests, it does not have any measures. It's entirely formed by interaction of dimensions. The main purpose that such kind of fact tables serve is it captures an event, or it's used for describing conditions. Now we will understand what that is using a student attendance system. So I have a student attendance system that has my date key, my teacher key, my subject, the class, the time, and the attendance. Here, how we can gather meaningful information is, let's say I want to make sure that only those students who have more than 75% attendance can sit for the exam. So what I can do is I can group by these dimensions, and I can take a count, and if the count exceeds 75%, that means that my students are entitled to sit in the exam, otherwise they cannot sit. So let's see this student ID 1. He attended 3 out of 4 class, that means he's 75%, he can attend. The same goes for 2 as well. But there will be certain cases where people have not attended 75% of the classes, and they will not be allowed. So that's how you can generate meaningful information from a factless fact table. The last one that we have is the aggregate tables, the cubes, the calc tables. These are also formed by the underlying transactional tables. So here we have the example of the same transactional table that we had earlier. We had the transaction ID, the product ID, customer ID, employee ID, the order ID, and that kind of stuff. Now what we want to see is the CEO of the company, he wants to see the products that have made him the most money and the most profit. At the same time, he wants to see the customers or the employees that are generating or handling the more money and the more profit. So what we will do simply here is we will take the product ID and we will group by the product ID and take the sum of amount and profit. So if you see here, this guy is comparatively buying this product, it's making low profit, while these two products are relatively making more profit. So I'll try to put more emphasis on these two products. The same goes for these customers as well. These customers are the ones that are buying a lot of stuff from me. This guy is making a lot, he is giving me a lot of profit, so I'll make sure that this guy gets seamless delivery. And these aggregated tables, right, if you see, they are fairly similar to the periodic snapshot. If I add a day column or a month column, that means the aggregation is done on a daily basis or a monthly basis. Though that's not always the case, you can do the calculation. I mean, it's pretty close to periodic snapshot if you see, because you will aggregate the data. You won't aggregate the data every minute. That will be way too difficult to maintain. You will have periodic snapshots where you will go ahead and aggregate the data. So it's pretty close, or it's a child, or it's similar to the periodic snapshot tables. And believe me guys, these aggregate tables, you will hear them, people refer them as cubes or calc tables for the calculations that happens. They have higher grains. For example, I want to see I have 20 different offices that are selling policies for me, the insurance policies. I want to see for this particular month which office sold the most number of policies, or I want to close 2 of my offices. So I will analyze the last 6 months of data and I will see that which particular offices made the least progress or sold the lowest number of policies in the last 6 months. So that kind of information I can get from the aggregate tables, which are also known as calc tables or the cubes. So guys, that will be it for this tutorial. I hope you understand now what are the fact tables, what are the different kind of fact tables, why each table is equally important, what kind of purpose they serve, and that kind of stuff. If you like these videos, please do give me a thumbs like, and please do subscribe to my channel. It actually helps me and encourages me to make more such videos. Thanks a lot guys for watching this one.